Legend says Poseidon, god of the seas, wielded a trident so powerful it could sink entire continents. But one day, it just vanished. Where did it go? Did he misplace it while taking a bubble bath with his favorite rubber ducky? Or is it hidden in some secret underwater party we weren't invited to? Today we're going on a comic adventure to find out. Grab your snorkels, maybe some waterproof snacks. Because the hunt begins now. First, let's understand what we're even looking for. Poseidon's trident isn't just some fancy three-pronged fork you'd use for a giant shrimp cocktail. No, this legendary weapon controls the tides, summons terrifying storms, and probably decides which sushi restaurants get good reviews underwater. Forged in the heart of a submarine volcano by the Cyclopes themselves, this trident was a gift of immense power. In ancient times, Poseidon was known for his dramatic flair. He'd playfully demonstrate its powers, creating whirlpools to stir his morning coffee or parting the seas just to avoid traffic. Of course, with great power comes great clumsiness. There were rumors of him accidentally flooding a coastal village with a single thunderous sneeze. The sea nymphs were always trying to get a selfie with it, and the mermen would dare each other to touch its glowing tips. It was the ultimate status symbol, the key to the kingdom, and the source of all his oceanic might. Life was good for the king of the sea. But all that was about to change. One fateful day, after a particularly long session of managing ocean currents, Poseidon went to grab his trident. And it was gone. The spot where it usually rested was empty, save for a few confused-looking shrimp. Panic set in. Was it theft? A prank from his brother Zeus, who always loved a bit of celestial sibling rivalry? Or maybe, just maybe, Poseidon was getting a little forgetful in his old age. I mean, keeping track of every single wave and fish has to be mentally draining, right? Let's look at the lineup of our prime suspects. First up, we have Hermes, the trickster god, known for his sticky fingers and love of causing chaos. He's definitely the type to steal a divine weapon just for a laugh. Then there's the giant octopus, a notorious hoarder who lives in a grotto filled with shiny objects. A glowing, all-powerful trident would be the crown jewel of his collection. And we can't rule out a curious mermaid, maybe one who just wanted to borrow it to impress her friends at the annual choral gala. The search began with a series of frantic and hilarious underwater chases. Poseidon, in a state of utter panic, zipped through the ocean, dodging schools of fish that formed inconvenient obstacle courses. He'd ask a jellyfish for directions, only to get a wobbly, unhelpful shrug. The trident itself seemed to have a mind of its own, bouncing off coral reefs like a pinball and leaving a trail of sparkling chaos in its wake. Who do you think took it? Let us know your prime suspect in the comments below. Realizing he couldn't do this alone, Poseidon decided to assemble a team. A hilarious, highly unqualified team. First, there was his clumsy merman sidekick, Barnaby, who was more likely to trip over his own tail than to find a clue. Then came Delphina, a wisecracking dolphin who spoke only in riddles and bad puns. And finally, Krusty, a grumpy old crab who was supposed to be the master tracker, but kept getting distracted and bearing important clues in the sand. Their journey was an epic of aquatic blunders. They had to navigate underwater mazes that seemed to rearrange themselves every 5 minutes. They stumbled into a jellyfish disco zone, where they were forced to dance their way through a sea of pulsating, stinging party animals. Navigating these waters is harder than convincing a sea snail to join a marathon. They even had to sneak through a sunken pirate ship, dodging cartoonish booby traps like swinging anchors and spring-loaded treasure chests full of seaweed. Barnaby, of course, set off every single one. After what felt like an eternity of misadventures, they finally followed a trail of mischievous giggles to a grand sunken palace. And there, on a throne made of shipwrecks, sat the culprit. It wasn't a god or an octopus or a mermaid. It was a gigantic, grinning kraken, holding the trident upside down and using it as a back-scratcher. This was the ultimate prankster of the deep. The final showdown was less epic battle and more aquatic slapstick comedy. Poseidon charged forward, only to slip on a strategically placed seaweed patch and slide right past the kraken. The trident was tossed through the water like a frisbee, spinning end over end while the local sea creatures either cheered for their king or booed his clumsy attempts. Barnaby tried to help by tangling the kraken's tentacles, but only managed to tie himself into a pretzel. Could Poseidon retrieve his symbol of power, or would the kraken host a permanent underwater stand-up show with his trident as the mic? Finally, With a clever move suggested by Delphina's most confusing riddle yet, Poseidon used a powerful current to create a whirlpool, spinning the Kraken around until it got dizzy and dropped the Trident. Victory! And so, after an epic and hilariously chaotic adventure, Poseidon reclaimed his mighty Trident. His sidekick did a silly victory dance, and the entire ocean seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The king had his power back, and maybe, just maybe, he learned a valuable lesson about putting a magical GPS tracker on his stuff. But who knows? In the vast, mysterious underwater world, mischief is never far away. If you enjoyed this epic and hilarious underwater adventure, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Legendary Myths for more myths, legends, and comic adventures from the depths of history and imagination. Hit that bell so you don't miss our next story, or Poseidon might prank you next. Thanks for watching.